Dr. Freeman, I presume. We better hurry. The Combine can be slow to wake, but once they're up, you don't want to get in their way. Dr. Kleiner said you'd be coming this way. I don't think it occurred to him that you might not have a map. I'm Alyx Vance. My father worked with you back in Black Mesa. I'm sure you don't remember me, though. Man, a few words, aren't you?
From its revolutionary first game to its legendary sequel, to the way Episode 2 left things on a massive cliffhanger, to the torturous wait for a resolution to that cliffhanger that has endured ever since, Half-Life is a series that has left a major impact on millions of people in more ways than one. And impossibly enough, just days from now, we'll finally be getting our hands on the next full-fledged Half-Life game, when Half-Life Alyx launches as a VR-exclusive title for PC on March 23rd. Given how much of a focus narrative and storytelling have been for Half-Life as a series, this is the perfect time to look back and refresh our memories on all that has happened across its multiple entries so far. And here, that's exactly what we're going to be doing, starting with Half-Life and ending at the notorious Half-Life 2 Episode 2 cliffhanger. Before we do all of that, perhaps a primer on some of the most important aspects of the series' narrative premise is in order. And the most important aspect here, especially for the beginning of the series' story, is the Black Mesa Research Facility. So, what exactly is it? Black Mesa Research Facility, colloquially referred to as simply Black Mesa, is, or was, a scientific research facility built over several Cold War-era decommissioned ICBM silos in the New Mexico desert in the United States. And what exactly was its function? Well, in a nutshell, think of it as an Area 51. Of the various researches conducted at Black Mesa, more than a few are of the kind that are conducted behind a veil of secrecy. And as such, it is a highly secured compound, heavily fortified and heavily defended. Sector E of the facility, for instance, conducts experiments that entail capturing life forms and flora from Xen, and then keeping them contained in artificial recreations of their natural habitats, following which studies and research based on them are conducted. What is Xen, though? Xen is a border world. Think of it as an alternate dimension, a plane of existence that borders or connects multiple other such planes. Black Mesa scientists often teleport to Xen, using technology developed at Black Mesa facilities, of course, to capture the flora and life forms, read aliens here, for the purposes of research. One scientist who works at Sector E of the Black Mesa Research Facility is a theoretical physicist named Gordon Freeman. You've probably heard of him. Half-Life 1 begins as Gordon arrives at his usual place of work, one of many underground labs scattered throughout Black Mesa, and is told by his co-workers that they have obtained a unique sample from Xen of a classified nature that they need to study right away. He is told to insert the sample into an anti-mass spectrometer, a piece of equipment that is used to analyze exotic materials. When he does so, though, things quickly go wrong. The spectrometer explodes, and that explosion causes a resonance cascade, which is essentially a quantum event that opens up an interdimensional rift. The effects are drastic and immediate. Black Mesa suffered major structural damage, communication lines within the facility have stopped working, and worst of all, alien life forms from Xen have started flooding into the facility. Gordon is told by his colleague, the physicist and researcher Dr. Eli Vance, that he needs to head back up to the surface to get some help. And so he sets off for the surface, finding that due to the structural damage caused by the resonance cascade, even simply getting around the facility is much harder than normal. The even bigger threat to him and everyone else, however, are the aliens now roaming around the facility, many of whom Gordon has to contend with on his upward trek. While on his journey, he is also told by other scientists that the military has already arrived at Black Mesa in an attempt to rescue people at the facility. Before he gets to the surface, he has a run-in with these soldiers, and realizes that they're not here to rescue people at all. Gordon witnesses soldiers from the Hazardous Environment Combat Unit, or HECU, killing a scientist. It is revealed that the HECU, who are quickly taking control of the entire facility, have been dispatched not only to deal with the aliens, but also to kill every single scientist there, in order to minimize the risk of what's happened at Black Mesa leaking out into the public. Gordon finally makes it to the surface, but things don't get much better for him there. He realizes that the entire facility has come under control of the military, who are conducting heavy military bombardment as part of their extreme measures. He is, as such, forced to seek shelter and heads back underground. Soon, however, he discovers that the survivors of the research team over at Lambda Complex at the facility, who are primarily concerned with teleportation technology, may be able to help close the rift that the Xen aliens are using to get into Black Mesa. And so, Gordon sets off to get to the Lambda Complex, all the way over on the other side of the facility. The next leg of his journey sees him coming up across multiple threats. For one, he still has to deal with the HECU soldiers that he encounters, but even more threatening are multiple alien forms that he crosses paths with. There's the aptly named Tentacle that he discovers at a rocket engine test silo. Not long after, he encounters a Gargantua, followed quickly by a run-in with multiple Houndai. Later, he also comes across the terrifying aquatic creature known as Ichthyosaur, as well as multiple alien grunts and other creatures known as Vortigaunts. And of course, many head crabs. He also has several run-ins with the Black Ops, another group of government elite soldiers who are sent into Black Mesa to cover up the incident, and have been tasked with killing everyone that they come across, including HECU Marines. During his journey, Gordon also discovers that he has to get to the High Altitude Launch Center, where he needs to launch a satellite that might allow the Lambda team to reverse the effects of the Resonance Cascade. Through many trials and tribulations, he successfully makes it back to the surface and launches the satellite, following which he heads back underground and sets off for the Lambda Complex. Eventually, the HECU forces, realizing that they're fighting a losing battle against the Xen aliens, retreat from Black Mesa and call in airstrikes. Not long afterward, Gordon finally reaches the Lambda Complex. Here, however, he receives some more bad news from the few surviving members of the Lambda team. He's told that the satellite he launched will not be enough to close the interdimensional rift, because, as it turns out, an immensely powerful being on the other side of the rift in Xen is holding the rift open. This being is known as the Neolinth. He's the supreme leader of the aliens in Xen, and he has been commanding his soldiers and minions to invade Earth, and we'll learn why in just a bit. And so Gordon is told to head into Xen himself and kill this being, thus allowing the rift to be closed. And so he does just that. He heads into Xen and makes his way through the strange dimension in his search for the Neolinth. That search turns up multiple other foes that he has to dispatch, including a creature known as the Gonarch. Gonarchs, which are what headcrabs turn into in their final phase of their life cycles, are supposedly the Neolinth's most powerful minions, and Gordon's encounters with one of these is suitably grueling. Eventually, though, he does manage to find the Neolinth. In a climactic battle, Gordon successfully kills the creature, which is followed quickly by an explosion that overwhelms his senses and renders him unconscious. When he comes to, he finds himself face to face with a mysterious man, known only as the G-Man. This is someone Gordon sees on more than one occasion throughout the game, but every time he is observing him from a distance, and the reasons for his actions and his motivations are unclear. G-Man praises Gordon for his actions in Xen, and enigmatically tells him that his employers see great potential in the scientist, and have thus decided to offer him a job, and so he does. Half-Life ends as Gordon accepts G-Man's offer, before being put into stasis. There's a large gap of time between the events of Half-Life 1 and 2, and the upcoming Half-Life Alyx will be set during that gap. So if you've never played Half-Life 2 or its 2 episodes and want to head into Alyx not knowing what happens next, this is where you should stop watching. Still here? Okay then, Half-Life 2.
What's the meaning of this? Who are you? How did you get in here?
Get him out of there. You can't just wade into the field. It will peel you apart.
Just lost Gordon. What's going on?
I wish I knew. I'm encountering unexpected interference. Don't worry, Gordon.
There he is. Oh, we're losing it again.
I'm all but certain it was Gordon Freeman.
When Gordon awakes from his stasis, he discovers that 20 years have passed. But before we get into what's going on and why he was awakened, let's go over some very important events that lead to this moment. So, the world's been taken over by aliens. The thing you need some background info on before we can even get into how that happened is the Combine, an immense and all-powerful collective, an interdimensional organization, essentially of multiple alien species, part of the Combine either by their own will or by force. The Combine's ultimate goal is complete assimilation of the multiverse into its own interdimensional empire, which it calls the Universal Union. In fact, the Neolinth and his species, including all his followers and minions, came into contact with the Combine long before the Black Mesa incident, and the violent conflict that ensued drove them out of their home, which is how they wound up in Zen. As it turns out, the interdimensional rift that was opened in Black Mesa following the Resonance Cascade attracted the attention of the Combine. Not long after the Neolinth was defeated and Gordon was placed into stasis by G-Man, the Combine invaded Earth, and using their immensely powerful technology, they managed to completely conquer the planet in just a matter of 7 hours. Earth's surrender to the Combine was negotiated by former Black Mesa administrator, Dr. Wallace Breen, who was installed by them as their puppet ruler of the planet. Immediately afterward, they imposed extreme measures to further their complete and absolute control over the planet. This included the implementation of a brutal police state, the forceful biological assimilation of humans with various other alien species, and the use of technology known as suppression fields to prevent humans from breeding. However, their control over the planet was not as absolute as they would have hoped for. While most of the planet had been brought under the Combine's rule, there was a pocket of those who fought them. A loose, covert network of humans and aliens known as Vortigaunts banded together to form the Resistance, with their ultimate goal being to fight back against the Combine and win back their freedom. The Resistance is led by former Black Mesa researcher and Gordon's former co-worker, Dr. Eli Vance, while his daughter, Alyx, is also a ranking member of the group, alongside her robotic dog companion, who is aptly named Dog. Several other former Black Mesa employees are also part of the Resistance. There's Barney Calhoun, a former Black Mesa security guard who works undercover as a Combine police officer. There's Dr. Kleiner, an eccentric Black Mesa scientist who was also Gordon's mentor back when he was a student at MIT. And there's Dr. Judith Mossman, another former research scientist. So with all that background information out of the way, let's get back to the present storyline. After 20 years in stasis, Gordon is awoken by the G-Man and promptly inserted into City 17, a city in Eastern Europe surrounded by a wasteland on the outside, and completely under the control of the Combine and their police state. The headquarters from where the Combine rule over the Earth, a massive tower known as the Citadel, looms over the city. Earth's administrator, Dr. Wallace Breen, whom we spoke of earlier, also resides in that Citadel. Soon after arriving in City 17, Gordon comes into contact with Barney Calhoun, the Resistance member who works undercover as a Combine cop. Barney contacts Dr. Kleiner, Gordon's former mentor, and tells Gordon to head to his lab. He heads out and along the way meets and joins up with Alyx Vance, Eli Vance's daughter. Gordon and Alyx arrive at Kleiner's lab, and there they decide to head to an underground Resistance base located in the wastelands outside City 17, where they will be able to work with other Resistance members and scientists, including Eli Vance. The base, aptly enough, has been dubbed Black Mesa East by Resistance members. Fortunately, they have an instantaneous way to get back to the base: teleportation. Unfortunately, and not all that surprising, that doesn't go as planned. Though Alyx is able to teleport away successfully, the teleporter malfunctions as Gordon enters it. He first finds himself in the middle of an ocean, where he is almost devoured by an ichthyosaur, before being teleported again to the office of Wallace Breen, Earth's administrator and the Combine's ruler puppet, before then being teleported back outside the lab where he started. So now, not only have Breen and the Combine both been alerted to Gordon's presence, he also can't be teleported, which means he has to make his way through City 17 one way or another and finally get to Black Mesa East. And so, that's what he does, fighting with various Combine aliens and City 17 police officers along the way. He eventually comes across an airboat and then uses that to make his way to the Resistance base. Here, Gordon meets up once again with Alyx, is reacquainted with Eli, and meets several others for the first time, including Alyx's robotic pet Dog, as well as Dr. Judith Mossman. Most importantly, Alyx also hands Gordon a gravity gun, an iconic weapon that all Half-Life fans will be quite familiar with. His welcome at Black Mesa East is quickly cut short though. The base is attacked by the Combine, who begin bombarding the whole place in an aerial raid. In the ensuing chaos and confusion, Eli Vance and Judith Mossman are captured by the Combine and taken to Nova Prospect, an old prison that has been repurposed by the Combine into something much worse. Meanwhile, Gordon and Dog find themselves separated from the others and have to use an underground tunnel to escape from the base, and they find themselves in the town of Ravenholm. Ravenholm was once a peaceful village that had somehow remained hidden from the Combine even after their invasion, and actually managed to live free of their rule. That, however, obviously did not last. The Combine did eventually discover Ravenholm and set loose hundreds of headcrab shells onto the town, completely destroying it. The result was not only an infestation of headcrabs, but also its entire population being turned into zombies. Well, not the entire population. After making his way through the deadly remains of Ravenholm, Gordon encounters the last survivor of the town, a man called Father Grigori. The two join hands as they make their way through Ravenholm towards an old mine that leads back to City 17. Grigori even hands Gordon a shotgun. They eventually arrive at the mine, and though Grigori chooses to stay behind and continue fighting, Gordon manages to successfully escape. Soon afterward, Gordon learns the fate of Eli and decides to head to the prison of Nova Prospect to rescue the Resistance leader, for which he has to travel along Highway 17. An arduous journey follows, but Gordon does eventually make it to the prison, where he goes on to lead an attack to rescue captured Resistance members. This is where we're going to end Part 1. When we return for Part 2, we'll go over the rest of the story of Half-Life so far, including the remainder of Half-Life 2, as well as the events of Episodes 1 and 2. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.